Hi, my name is Austin Gil, and I like to build fun and interesting things for the web. In my videos, I'm going to be building out new projects, checking out different technologies, and sharing the things that I learn along the way. So if that sounds interesting to you and you want to tag along, then why don't you subscribe and we can build something fun together. I'm smiling because today I want to talk to you about cookies, which are possibly my favorite dessert. Chocolate chip cookies are amazing. Also have a soft spot for peanut butter cookies. But those aren't the type of cookies that I'm talking about, because today we are talking about web cookies, which are kind of related to that really annoying pop-up thing that a lot of websites are doing where they ask you for your consent for cookies. So aside from being, annoying in that sense, cookies can be really cool and powerful tools for web developers. So we'll look at that a bit because we use them in our recent Wordle app. So if I open up my dev tools, if I reload and make a submission, that data is going to be sent to the backend, and then it's going to do the validation stuff, and then it's going to come back and store and show us what's going on. This is server generated, but we also have some stuff going on the front end. So we can see that we have our score, we have our previously guessed letters. Pretty terrible first letter to start, or first word to start with, but that's okay because we're just talking about cookies. And the reason cookies are cool is because they are a place to store data that you can kind of like pass back and forth between the browser and the client. And we don't have a database for the backend here. Like, it's not keeping track. We're not keeping score of my score in memory or in a database. It's all just being stored in a cookie. And that data is being sent back and forth from the client to the server, from the server back to the client. And why that's cool is because we can store information in it, like what my last guess was, and we can access it from the server. So let's take a look at some code. This is a Remix Run app. You don't need to know a whole lot of what's going on here. I just want to show that we can console log, and here this is already showing us what we've got here. The request headers are going to contain that cookie. So if we save that, that should run, get some ESLint love. I should be able to reload this page, and somewhere in my console, we should see, yep, sure enough, there we go. In my console, I can see that my cookie has, or my header cookie has these guesses value with some obfuscated value, which we don't need to worry about. But the fact is, the cool thing is that I can access it on request from my server, because that request came with those cookies. And what I can do on the back end is actually interact with those cookies and that value and modify it and play with it. But the other cool thing is I don't only get to play with it on the back end. I can go back to my front end, and I actually have access to the cookies right here on the document. So you can see that on the client side, the document cookie is that same value, which if we had something to, a more basic value, we could probably manipulate it and send it back and all like things like that. Remix does a little bit of that for you, so we don't need to worry about that. But the cool thing to focus on is that we have access both on the client side and on the server side. Now, on the client side, that gives a little bit of an opening to cross-site scripting attacks. So if we had some nefarious, even like a browser extension could be installed on my browser that can access the document.cookies. And then if that's like an auth token, it can maybe send it and make authorized requests on my behalf, which is not cool. So we don't want to do that. So does that mean we don't use cookies for sensitive storage? Maybe some things, but not necessarily. We've been using cookies for a long time on the web. And something that we can do is, here's where I'm actually creating, Remix gives me a cool interface for creating like cookies and sessions and stuff. So we can use this flag for HTTP only cookies, and only You don't have to worry about that syntax for creating it, but it's worth checking out what HTTP only cookies are. They basically mean that they can only be accessed on the server. So now if I go to document.cookie, I can see that that cookie is not there, but if we're still logging it on the backend, I think, yeah, it should still, did I take that code out? Oops, I did. So if we log it on the back end, we can reload a few times and just see that somewhere in there, rebuilding. Okay, there we go. We've got our document cookie, or our cookie of guesses right there. So that's pretty neat, pretty handy. Obviously it's still there because our guess is still there. So the front end is still seeing that, but it's just not able to interact with it. So that's pretty neat. And if you ever need to clear your cookies, go to application, go to your URL and your cookies and find the one and just pop it off. And that's that. So hope that is a handy little tip for you. Get yourself some cookies, go out to the store, go out to a browser and accept those cookies, and have fun coding it, because it's a really powerful place to store data that's available as web developers. So hope you enjoy.